Welcome back to another episode of Root to Rising podcast with myself, Christine Hummel. And my guest today is Jennifer, who's going to share with us again another professional journey that she has focusing right now on organizational leadership. So before we kick it off and we start going through Jennifer's professional journey, I'm going to throw it to you, Jennifer, for an introduction of yourself and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me, Christine. I am very excited to talk through kind of how I got from A to B with many letters in between, probably A to Z, maybe with all the alphabet in between. I started my career in more of a dietetic field. I was very much interested in nutrition, and then just really big picture kind of grabbed onto different things that I liked and kind of bounced around, going to a variety of schools and careers, but mostly through experience and ending up to where I am now in organization development and leadership.
So when you were kind of growing up or when you were deciding, in high school and college what to do and what you wanted your profession to be, maybe share, with really the target audience here is younger women that are trying to figure out and navigate through their journeys of what to do, of how to do it. So when you were going through high school and college, what were you thinking? Where were your interests in? And then how did you move forward to help kind of execute on some of those interests?
Yeah, I really like numbers and analysis. So, in high school, I took like AP physics my senior year. So it's just like I really thought my dad was a mechanical engineer. I knew my brother was going to be a mechanical engineer. My grandpa was a machinist. So like I was like, I want to go in here. Like I always kind of want to do what my dad does, or like my uncles were runners and my cousins. So like I wanted to run.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of always had like the male role model, but I didn't necessarily differentiate gender wise. I just saw them as role models. So I was like, yes, I
Yep.
want to be like that. I quickly realized that I would have to try very, very, very hard in that space. My dad ended up getting the book, that my AP physics book. And so I could call him. My parents were divorced. And so like after school, I would call him and be like, Dad, I can't figure out this problem. He's like, okay, I'll call you back in 30 minutes. So he'd figure it out and then he'd walk me through it.
Aw.
And so that I could get it. And I was just like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And he's like, well, Jen, not everyone's brain works this way. Like you
Yep.
might want to do something else. But I was so like, oh, I wanted to be like you.
Yeah.
So, he was great. Like he never said I couldn't do something. It was more or less like, if you want to go into the field of engineering, especially for a girl, it's going to be very, very hard. And so you just need to be ready to get back up because you're going to get knocked down. And so it was more or
Mhm.
less instilling that thought that if something doesn't go your way, just change your strategy. And
Mhm.
so I was like, you know what? I love numbers, but I don't love numbers in this fashion.
Mhm.
So I ended up going to school. Biology pre-med was my undergrad degree. So I still kind of kept in that. I still feel like there's numbers and analysis, but
Yep.
it's in a different fashion. And that was like, I changed my like minor so many times, like physical therapy, Spanish.
When did you switch from engineering to
Well,
pre-med?
so
What?
in high school, I realized,
Okay.
I'm not this number person. Like as much as I wanted to be in my dad and brother's gang and my
Yep.
grandpa's gang, I'm like, that's not, not going to
What
happen.
did your can I ask what did your mom do? Did she have an influence in your decision?
She was a stay-at-home mom, and she instilled that she never said I couldn't do anything, so it was more like she always gave that perception that you could do whatever you wanted. And my dad was kind of, um, the brain behind it, where it's just
Mhm.
like, you gotta, he was, he was born in France. He was an immigrant here. And, he was the first of his family to, go to school. He was in the military here. And so it was just, you have to be disciplined, and no one's going to do it for you. You got to do it for
Yep.
yourself. And so my mom was like the cheerleader, being like,
Yep.
you can do whatever. But like, I always just wanted to be like my dad and my grandpa. And so I was like, oh, I can do it in a different way. And so
Mhm.
I knew my dad also wanted to be a doctor at some point. He switched over to an
Mm.
engineer. So I was like, I'll just go down the med field route. Like I
Yep.
love the human body. I love nutrition.
Yep.
I ran track in high school and college. And a lot of people would come to me and be like, oh, like this is wrong. What should I do? And I'm like, oh, did you try
Mhm.
this? Like, how much, are you getting enough calcium? Basic
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like that. And I took the MCAT, to get into med school, and that was horrible.
yeah.
I'm just a horrible test taker. Like, that's
Yeah, a
not
lot of
how I
people
think.
are, a lot of people are. Yep,
Yeah. Oh, I applied to all my schools and I got into one out of like the 10. And I was just like, maybe this is another sign. Maybe this just isn't
yep,
my strength. And so I pivoted. I'm like, I love nutrition. I can do nutrition all day, all night. Why don't I'll just go to grad school for nutrition. So I graduated from Augustana with an undergrad in biology pre-med and then went to the University of Illinois in Champaign to get my master's of food science and human nutrition. And that's also where I became a registered dietitian. And here, like I could research, like I published a bunch of papers. It was a very, very impactful experience because first of all, it's kind of, academia, it's like La La Land
mhm, mhm,
because you can go like, "Oh, yeah, optimally, this is what we're supposed to do." But that's not the real world, like, nobody operates in an
right.
optimal situation.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of colleges like that though, right? Like you sit in a classroom, you learn usually from a professor that maybe had that experience or did that job or maybe not. They just learned it from a book. They might not have a real life experience and they're telling you like how to do it, but actually I agree 100%. The reality when you get into a workplace and you're actually doing that job, there's like 100 other variables around you that
Yeah,
are impacting it outside of just the book, right? And so
yeah,
it's teaching yourself not just to focus on learning the book part of it, the science, the numbers, but how to interact and integrate everything else around you along with that. So I agree with that 100%.
yeah. And what I love with my Dr. Lehman, my professor at, U of I, he was like, "If it's in a book, it's old news."
Fair,
And
fair.
I was like, "Oh, that makes sense from a nutrition scientific standpoint because by the time it gets published, there's probably been other research done
That's fair.
that can potentially disprove it or support it or whatever it is." And so I think it's kind of investigative. And I love that too, that like
Yep.
investigative, trying to solve something, try to figure it out. Uh, when I finished, I ended up working for Bally Total Fitness, which doesn't
Okay.
exist anymore.
Yep.
And so I built a whole nutrition program for them. And that's where I quickly saw the difference between corporate America and,
Mhm.
academia, because I was like, well, this would be the best thing for our members. And
Yep.
in the business, it's not about what's the best thing. It's where does that best thing, that best line fit where I want my bottom line,
For
you
you.
know? And so it's more of a compromise. And I had a hard time initially with that because, coming straight out of research and going for optimal.
Mm.
But then again, in the real world, like in a lab, anything can really be
Yep.
successful. But in the real world, there's so many other variables that come into play. Like one of the biggest things we did a 16-month weight loss study on humans, and it was a protein, like a higher protein diet versus the food guide pyramid. So we're
Mm.
talking like
Mhm.
40, 30, 30. So it's not
Mhm.
like drastic. We're not like talking keto here. And yeah, you could lose more weight if you're compliant, but 90% of the individuals couldn't stay compliant because that's not how our society
Right.
operates.
Right.
So yeah.
Walk us through so you made it sound super easy that you just graduated and then got a job at Bailey's Fitness. So
Well,
how did you get that job? Because and I don't know the answer. I think you and I and our generation, I don't want to say it was easier, but I think there was less, competitiveness in terms of everything's just kind of heightened in terms of these, college men or women graduating, you have to have, not just activities, but a high GPA, all these internships, and it's just everyone just keeps elevating, right? And then, so going back to when you graduated, like what steps did you take to put yourself out there to look for the job that either you wanted or did you take the job because you just needed a job? And maybe walk us through some of the, what did you contemplate during that time and how did you put yourself out there to get that first job?
yeah. So when I look back at any job I've gotten, it's mostly because of relationships. And so, I think like most people, I was taught to or raised like you're nice to people,
Yep.
and everybody is important and everybody has some value. It might not be the value you provide, but that's what could make it great if you have a relationship, if
Yep.
they can balance you out. And so it was all about like it was my professor knew somebody who worked at Bally already,
Okay.
and he knew there was an open position. And so he said, I think you should talk to him. Like,
Mm.
so basically I got referred from my professor and it worked out really well. And that's just kind of how I moved from one job to the other, is just either knowing somebody or somebody knowing me and saying, hey, I think you might like this. But that takes a lot of effort, and it's not just being nice to people, it's inserting yourself strategically in places. So I'm a very much an introvert, and so networking isn't something I always look forward to. It's very beneficial. What I've done was kind of make it more interesting to me, and I think the reason I don't like is I don't like small talk, and a lot of times you can start out with small
I
talk
don't either.
and it's just
I
like,
make a joke when I get on my work calls. I'm like, I don't want to talk about the weather and I don't want to talk about everyone's kids. Like we talk about the same thing every time. Like let's
yeah.
just get to it, right? Let's move it forward.
Yeah, and so I would just be like, "Oh, what do you do? How did you end up there?" Like, just start asking questions about
Yeah.
other people that I would find interesting, and also realizing that you never know who anybody is. You can't judge a book by a cover,
Yep.
and,
Agreed.
so I think, again, that was just how I was raised, and I think after, like, sounds like we're the same generation, like, after our
Mhm.
generation, it was more like things started becoming more judgy,
Yep.
and you missed a lot of opportunity if been like, "Oh, well, he can't provide me anything just because the way he
Yeah.
looks."
Why do you think it got more judgy? What do you think changed?
I think we lost our sense of humor. I mean, like, in the 80s, we could just make fun of each other, and that was just
Yeah.
what we did, and nobody took it to heart, and then suddenly
Yeah.
we couldn't do that anymore.
I don't know. Why did we lose our sense of humor? Is it because people got more serious because they were exposed to more information on social media? I don't
Yeah.
know. I just feel like everyone, there's so much out there for information for people to see if they agree with it or not. And it's almost like an overload. And so then you see it all coming in. And then when you actually have a human conversation, everyone's just kind of like to your point is judgy or backs off and almost can't process it all, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but
No, I think you bring up a good point with social media because, like, so I went to a private school for part of my grade school.
mm,
When I transitioned to the public high school, it was a completely different world. So it
mhm.
was like having no social media to having social media, basically. Cause it's like I had 8 kids in my eighth grade class and 1,000 kids in my freshman.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa, this is overstimulation. I don't know what to
Yep.
do with all this information and all this potential judging."
Yep. Yep.
Like, I just had my 8 people, and I knew them enough that I
Yep.
knew they weren't judging me. And you can't
Yep.
get to know everybody enough, so you think they judge you.
Right.
And I think it's probably one of the things with, like, "Oh, if so and so makes this comment," well, first of all, you don't have to post anything on social media,
Right.
You don't
Exactly.
need to get anybody's approval, you can just be you. I think that's the other thing is we're fine being us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need anyone's approval to do what I
So,
do.
but that said with confidence, like I can tell you're confident. You can make that statement and you make it sound very easy. Like I don't need anyone's approval. I am who I am. And I feel comfortable saying that too. But the younger generation women, they don't have that same level of confidence today. And so, how do we help inform them or educate them or give them the confidence? I mean, hence why I'm doing the
Yeah.
podcast, right? Is to share people's stories like yourself. But what advice would you give to a younger generation listening to this to say, here's how you should gain confidence and not care what people think and don't seek for that constant approval of others. Seek what makes you individually happy.
Yeah, there must have yeah, I mean, I think it's ideally just the culture in my house, but I think it gets reinforced throughout my life
Mhm.
with, like, if you're insecure, you're automatically putting yourself at a different level. Like, it's interesting so I'm a small statured person. When I walk and I feel threatened, I will, like, put my elbows out, raise up, like,
Good.
look bigger. And so I think it's just like an automatic thing where I don't want anybody to see me as some kind of target, like
Yep.
inferior or intimidated.
Yep.
And, especially when I'm with my kids, like, I will get, like, it's weird. It's
Yeah.
like the birds, just, like, blown up.
Yeah.
Like, I really physically get big and I'll get louder.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, that's just I've always kind of had that, like, protective instinct for others, and I think
Mhm.
unconsciously I do that to myself, like, I protect myself, and it's just being like, "No, I'm here with you." And I think for other girls, it's just, I don't really know how you get that confidence outside of just doing it.
So would you make yourself big, like from like a stature perspective, right? And you're like, it's almost like fight or flight, right? And you say, I'm gonna fight. Does your nonverbals or your external you match how you're feeling internally? So like if you're in a stressful situation or you think you're gonna be a target and you make yourself big physically, do you still feel strong internally, or are you just kind of like, holy crap, I just gotta do this to get through it, and then you figure it out as you go? Do the external and an internal match?
I think they do. In
Okay.
most situations, I think it does, but that's a very good point. I think sometimes when I feel like, okay, I've been too deep, whatever, this was a bad decision.
Like, "Oh, shit, how do I get myself out of
Yeah.
this?"
Then that's like, okay, like, but I feel that I can't get like as big and bold when I
Yep,
feel that
yep,
way. So I think it's more or less being able to just go for it.
yep.
So here's the other thing. Like, so recently we went to, um, oh my God, I don't even remember where it was
It's
now.
okay. I get it. I don't even know what I did last
We were
weekend, so don't worry.
we were on vacation and we were whitewater rafting, Oregon. We went to Oregon.
Okay.
And part of it, like, we had to get off the raft and then you could either climb down the cliff or you could jump off the cliff. And
Hmm,
so it's my turn to go, and one of my kids went already and I'm like panicked that he went, like, God, I
yeah,
gotta get down there, even though
yeah.
he's totally fine. Then I got a kid behind me. My husband's obviously there too. And I get towards the edge and my legs just start like,
Oh, wow.
you're like, "Oh, you can't do this." And so I turn back around and I go, "I just need a minute." And then my other son went, and then I got back in line and I go, "Okay, I'm just gonna go." He's like, "Okay." So
Mhm.
I knew that if I got close to the edge and saw it, I couldn't
Yep.
do it. I physically couldn't do it, because you had to jump because
Mhm.
you couldn't just fall, you had to jump.
Mm.
And so I jumped and I did it. And I'm like, okay. And then oddly, we went rafting again that week. And so I'm like, great, now I have to do this again. And I'm like, no, you did it once. You don't have to do it again. But I was like, no, you're going to do it again because you're
Yeah,
clearly still afraid of it.
that's right. Good for you.
I did the same thing where I got up to the edge and then my legs got weak and I had to go back around again. And then I just did it. So I think
Yeah,
that's it. You just got to do it and see what
yep.
happens.
Yeah, that's a good example. And the reason I asked that question is I think today, maybe, people don't have to, women don't have to be totally comfortable internally. If you're in a situation or you're going for something, you're never going to feel 100%. And even in today's world, I would argue it's harder. You're never going to feel 100% like confident or you're all there. But to your point, just jump, just do it, and then you'll figure out the rest afterwards and you'll deal with the feelings. I think the confidence women are trying to say, I need to feel all the internal to be confident external. And it's kind of like fake it, like
Yeah.
just be confident and you'll figure it out. Everyone's strong enough, smart enough. You'll figure it out individually and don't be so scared. I always ask people, what's the worst thing that can happen if you make that decision? Take away the fear, right? So if you have a big interview tomorrow and you're prepping for it and you have so much anxiety and stress, ask yourself what's the worst thing that can happen? You can't get the job. That would suck, but you would rebound and you would find another interview, another job, right? So, take away the fear and the what if or the what if not to make sure that you gain that confidence and execute in that situation.
Yeah. And there's always something you learn. Well,
Mhm.
like, even if it's not just an interview, like, you're gonna
Mhm.
learn something from that interview,
That's right.
and so if you don't get the job, that's fine, and if a lot of times they won't even give you a reason,
Right.
as to why they didn't choose you, but you can kind of tell, like, "Oh, I was probably a little weak on this area. I should probably strengthen
Mhm.
this." So, as
Mhm.
long as you can self-assess yourself and learn that you've grown, and I think that's just is we're always gonna if we always wanna grow, we're always gonna be uncomfortable
Yep.
because
I
that's
agree.
what growing and learning is a state of change. It's in uncomfortable situations. We should be uncomfortable relatively consistently if we're consistently
I
growing.
agree.
It
I
doesn't
agree,
mean
and
we're in a
yeah.
panic ball, but like,
And it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. That feeling is not settling and it doesn't feel good all the time, but it's okay. Like I think women today or younger generation, they don't want to feel uncomfortable. They're scared.
yeah.
And we're kind of like, just let it happen. You'll figure it out, right?
Yeah. So right now I'm, an adjunct professor at Elmhurst University, and I have undergraduate and graduate students. And, um, I tell them at the beginning of my class, like, don't expect to get like every answer correct.
Yeah.
Because if you knew everything, I don't know
Yeah.
why you would be here.
Right.
It wouldn't make
Exactly.
sense to be in the class. This
Exactly.
is an opportunity to learn. So we're going to learn from each other. And that's how we'll end up getting through the class. It's not what you know now, it's what you know at the end of the course and what you continue to remember that matters. It's not what you
Agreed.
know now. And it's interesting because when I said that, some of them were just like, felt like, thank you for giving me permission. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't like,
Isn't that
so
crazy?
yeah, there is this different
Yeah.
expectation with this generation that they're supposed to know everything, and it's
Yep.
like, well, not in a learning environment, not really ever. I mean, everyone
Ever.
can always learn something from everywhere.
That's actually a good comment. Like, I think as women leaders and more experienced women, maybe we have to do a better job to give people a little bit of permission, right? To make mistakes and to say, like, I just said this to one of my, managers within my team. She was so worried about doing everything perfectly. I'm like, listen, no one's perfect. I took it off the table. I said, I have no expectation that you're going to figure this out 100%. I go, you're new, you're learning, you're going to make mistakes. I don't care if you make mistakes. It's how you respond to the mistakes, how you do, figure out the plan for the next time. And no one's perfect. And I just kind of took it off the table. So maybe, it's more conversations about allowing people to feel like it's okay to make a mistake and no one's perfect with all the other pressures they have going on.
Yeah, and I say to them, like, as your professor, like, I am human. I will make
Yeah,
mistakes.
everyone will.
Like, I
Yep.
don't know everything, that's ridiculous to expect
Right.
that. But I think that's kind of how we've viewed teachers growing up, where
Yep.
they know everything and you don't question them, where I expect the students to question, obviously, in a respectful manner.
Agreed.
And because one thing that is not rising to the top in a skill for this generation is critical thinking, and
Agreed.
having to have them don't just take what I say
Right.
as truth. Like, if you think that that doesn't make sense, research it, or
Yep.
ask questions. But it's interesting how they feel, and I don't know if this is just again because of the social media. They I think a good portion of people think that whatever's said on social media is real. And it's like, no, it's you don't know if it's real or not. You have
Yeah,
to
and I think
figure that out for yourself.
yeah, and a lot of the agreement of everything they hear and see is the truth. I think it has to be quick. And I think what they see on social media and your comment on we're losing the critical thinking skills outside of AI. I think that social media gives everyone an answer very quickly, right? It's like a 30-second skit. It gives one quote, nothing behind it, why or how they got there. And then that's the truth. And they move on to the next TikTok or whatever. So, to kind of remove yourself and when you see that, like, how do we teach not to slow down, but to have critically thinking skills to not just have that instant gratification need and think of the how and the why, and then maybe even on their own journeys that they're creating from college to professional, it's not going to be instant. You're not going to get a job tomorrow, but create that pathway, take a step back and develop that plan, develop that journey and find people. I think you summarized it well throughout your journey. You had your dad who influenced you, your brothers, you had a professor along the way. You had people you've created a network that have helped you to your next phase in life or your phase in your journey. And I think just younger women have to allow themselves to do that, navigate that path. And it's not going to be instant gratification. You're not going to have a million likes and have $1 million tomorrow, right? That doesn't happen, but that's what social media is portraying.
Yeah. And it's not just handed to you. Like,
Right.
I spent a good portion of my career in public relations and the agency side, and I called it strategic stalking. Like,
Mm,
I had to
yep.
find media people, but I didn't wanna stalk them, like,
Yep.
and if I knew they were gonna be at a conference and I was at that conference, I would, try to figure out their locations and accidentally run into them
Yep.
and be like, "Hey,"
Good
like,
for you.
so it's
You can't
interesting.
you don't learn that in college. They that's something is street smarts, right? Like, you don't learn
Yeah,
that from the
you just
book.
gotta figure out what's working because, like,
Yeah.
me emailing them, they weren't getting back. I couldn't get an appointment to,
Yep.
connect with them. So fine, that's fine. I get it. They're busy, like, so I'm
Yep.
just gonna randomly run into them. And if anything, if they don't have any time, fine. Like, be like, oh, you know what? Can I send you something to look at? I'll just, be like, yeah, that'd be great. Well, now I've made this like personal connection somewhat. Like, we've seen each other. I'm no longer this like crazy
Right.
woman who keeps emailing and calling him.
Now
Uh,
you're stalking them. 'Em. You're not
yeah,
emailing them. 'Em, you're stalking them.
yeah. But now it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll take a look at it." And then
Yeah.
now that email has a person connected to it.
Yep. A
So, like,
face.
and
Yep.
then you slowly start there. And
Right.
it's not always about, like, asking people to do things for you. It's you asking what I can do for
Yep.
them.
For you. Yep.
And because then that ask will come later, most likely. Like, it's always a give and a take. And that's why I find volunteering to be
Mm.
a huge component of success because you can meet so many more people that way and you can learn so many more skills or figure out what you like and don't like.
Yep. Yep. So we talked previously, and you have, I mean, already you've shared so many different experiences throughout your journey, starting with engineering, it was your kind of goal, switched to pre-med, and then you went to dietitian, and now you're in organizational leadership, right? And then you just mentioned public relations along the way. So your path is that, if you look back now, is that the path that you thought you were going to take, or and are you okay with the path that you had because you had experiences in all these different areas that are so different, like engineering to organizational leadership, and that's like different parts of the brain right there. So two questions. If you're looking back, is this what you planned for yourself? And then looking at it now, how do you feel about it? Are you happy with where it ended up to be?
Yeah, I did not plan it this way. Not Didn't necessarily think this is where I would end up. What's interesting is like half the books back here are my
Mhm.
dad's books. And
Mm.
a lot of them are on indirectly organization development. So while I thought I
Mm.
wanted to follow his career in engineering, he took engineering, got his MBA, and ran companies. And so that's basically what I'm doing now. So I didn't realize, like, we do have very similar brains, except I didn't have that, like, number aspect like he did for engineering, but
Yep.
it's the company, the organization as a system,
Mhm.
and all these pieces working together, which includes the people in there. And so I'm very happy where I ended up because I also, being able to teach my own consulting business and then doing research, I don't like doing just the same thing over and over
Yep.
again. And so it gives me different, I guess, sparks to my brain, like
Yep.
different ways that I can think, but then they all assist each other. A lot of times what I end up researching is coming out of
Mm.
somebody I'm consulting with or somebody or like school for, teaching. And
Mhm.
so it's all about improving the system, whether it's improving teaching or improving departments within the school or improving, so that all the departments in a company actually talk to each other and share resources, things like that. My core desire is to help people realize or companies realize their full potential.
Mm.
And so, like, I can do that in a variety of ways. I have to, say no to more things because I just don't have the time to
Yeah.
do it all. I think I don't know what your thought is about work-life balance, but I think it's a hoax.
I think those words should be eradicated from the
Yeah,
dictionary.
it's
It's not a
it's an
thing.
oxymoron. It doesn't make
It
any
is.
sense whatsoever.
It
And
is.
people who think they have it, I don't know what, you know, it's something's gotta give. There's only
Agreed.
so much. And so, like, I initially started my career really focused on my career because, it's just you, and then you get married, and then you have kids.
Yep.
And I didn't skip a beat,
Yep.
and I still easily worked 10-hour days when my kids were toddlers. And then it came time where I was like, this is not what I wanna be skipping
Yep.
my kid's life for. Like, I wanna do more than what I'm doing. That's when I, stopped the PR agency, decided to stay home with the kids and get my MBA because I was like, I wanna be more business versus
Mhm.
public relations oriented. But then I saw what I was missing. I mean, that transition, don't get me wrong. I mean, I had to go to counseling, like, that was
Mm.
insane, staying home with my children 24/7.
It's a
Insane.
lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot. And I on my previous podcast, part of the conversation was it doesn't matter what each woman chooses for herself as long as they're choosing it for themselves, right? So if you want to be a stay-at-home mom because that's what makes you the happiest and that's your motivator in life and you're the best mom or teacher or whatever, go for it. Like have at it, but then don't judge those that don't get that as their number one motivator, right? We
Yeah.
can still be good moms, but our motivator maybe is mine is to work in healthcare, and I need that to be fulfilled in order to be a good mom. So, back to your earlier comment, lose the judgments, stop judging each other as women, and just let women be who they want to be. And if you want to be a stay at home mom, truly because that's what you want to do and not what culture or your society or your religion is telling you to do, have at it, right? And so, for you, that's what you shifted to do, but then you had to shift back into the business world. I never could be a stay-at-home mom. So I have 3 kids. I had them for whatever you stay home 6 weeks. By the 3rd and 4th week, I was like crawling to go back to work because I needed I missed it. I needed that intellectual challenge. I needed that conversation and I couldn't wait to go back. And I still you juggle it all. Your comment on work-life balance, it's not a word. I just think it's you have to, and balance is different for everyone.
Yeah.
So I might need, more quality time with my kids. I don't need quantity. I don't need like hours upon hours to be there all the time. But when I'm with them, I want the quality time. And looking back, I always thought to myself, I can't be everywhere to everyone all the time, but I have to take the average. So if I'm showing up and I'm doing an okay job on an average, so I'm at majority of my kids' things and they take an average that I'm there or at work, I'm there as much as I can be. You're never going to be perfect. And some days and some weeks I invested my time with my kids because they needed me more or there was 30 different activities to attend. That's okay. Then I laid off of work a little bit. But the next week if I had significant meetings or travel, then I invested more in work. And you're constantly toggling day by day, week by week, and that balance has to be something you're okay with and it's not going to be the same for everyone. So, and I always need some kind of physical activity, in the start of my day. That works for me. That gives me kind of the energy and the motivation to be on my day. So again, it's always different, but I agree with you. Work-life balance should never even be a goal that tries to be achieved.
Yeah, it's setting people up for something that's not realistic if they don't take it as, "This is what it means to me." It can't
Agreed.
be like you said, it can't be someone else's work-life balance. Because I mean, I couldn't stand being home when I was first home. It was just I mean, it was like there was a death, like,
Yeah.
it was like my career was just
Yeah.
dead. Even though it
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, I'm going back to school because I wanna get my MBA and come back as something else." Well, then I was like, "Well, now that I saw this, I don't feel like I'm ready to go back full time." And that's when I started my own consulting business and then teaching because I was like, well, I can then build myself my own flexible
Yeah.
hours so I can still work, still see the kids. The issue, you always have to also remember that everyone's situation is going to be different because the family's different. It's
Yep.
just like a company, it's a system. So if one husband can do X, Y, and Z, which allows the wife to do A, B, and C. That's one thing,
Mhm.
but not every husband is going to or can do different
Right.
things. So it's like,
Right.
and when we both worked full time out of the house, we had a nanny. So it's like
Mhm.
if both of us were late, it didn't
Right.
matter because the nanny
Right.
could stay. It's not like we had to run to daycare. So
Right.
like everyone's situation is
Yep.
very different. Like and now I still see like some people with the young kids and I was just like and they talk about daycare. I'm like, God, that's gotta be so hard. Like,
Mhm.
I could just ask my nanny to come in early or stay
Yep.
late and it didn't
Yep.
inconvenience, me. So there's so many different levels and so many
Right.
different ways to raise a family but you can't I think in society we take out like the dad does this, the mom does this, but it's just like,
Mhm.
no, like you actually have to work together
Agreed.
or it falls apart.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like your point. It should be different for everyone. And then, before we kind of ask a couple final questions, one of them would be adaptability. You definitely have adapted throughout your journey by you didn't have, it's almost like you didn't describe them as barriers. So I don't want to misqualify them, but you had changes in your journey for whatever reason that pivoted you to go somewhere else in a different direction. So, how would you say, describing to someone listening this, a younger generation, how do you continue to be adaptable and how are you okay with those decisions? Because change is hard for a lot of people. You're in organizational leadership. Like to take a corporation to change, it's a significant undertaking and it takes time. But what advice would you give for younger generations to be adaptable or how to be adaptable?
Yeah. So I think this is all the mindset, and I think that's where our generations are different. Is that like
Mm,
Gen X again? Like our mindset was that we weren't perfect, and there was no expectation for us to be perfect.
mm, hmm,
And I think now, for some reason, our younger generation feels like they need to be perfect. They need to have all the answers. And so I think, and maybe it's because there's so many more resources just right at your fingertips. But that still
yep,
doesn't mean that you have more information available. It doesn't mean it's the correct information. So in some parts, you might actually have it a lot harder because we didn't have this blah, blah, blah chatter or surrounding
yep.
us. We went to encyclopedias and stuff like to get
I
information.
loved encyclopedias. I
I
had
know,
2
so did I.
sets, by the way.
Uh, so I think it's the mindset. You
Yep,
have to put yourself where you wanna be mentally. Like, mentally, this is where I am, and yeah, I'm not maybe I can't do everything. I know people hate the word "can't," but it's like, that doesn't mean you can't try.
right.
Like, and it's the trying, and then and if it's not working, as long as you're getting up and learning something from it,
Yep,
then you either keep pursuing that or you're like, okay, what did I learn from this? And is there a different way for me to move forward? Maybe it's not in this direction, maybe it's in a different direction. So it's really just about believing in yourself and no matter what anybody else thinks. Like,
yep,
if you don't believe in you, nobody's going to believe in you. And people can see right through it. So you have to believe in yourself. And that's where I think like the biggest thing is just in your mind. I know all those like motivational speakers say things like, say positive things to yourself. And it works. You just have to keep
yep,
telling yourself. You don't want to be delusional. You have to realize you don't know everything,
yep,
and you probably will never know everything. It's just a matter of being willing to
yep.
learn and put yourself out there, and it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and be okay with making mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So final question for you is someone that's graduating college and looking for their first job or trying to figure out their career, in terms of starting out or navigating through that journey, what advice would you give them in terms of how to even start or how to even look for the quote unquote perfect job that they got a degree in, right? What advice would you give them?
Okay, so a real tactical one first. Don't look for job titles. Like,
Mm,
job titles are so subjective,
I agree.
and it's real annoying how subjective they are. Like, it would be nice if there was like a handbook, and this is what
Mhm.
this actually means.
Mhm.
So, from a tactical standpoint, think of what you want to do. Look through the actual position descriptions because the title typically does not actually align
Yep.
with whatever it is. And one company might refer to it as this versus another company this, and it's just a
Yep.
hot mess. And that's what I would use ChatGPT for is finding like just saying research
Yep.
job position descriptions for these kind of skill sets or things that I want to do and see what comes your way. Secondly, from a less tactical standpoint, I guess it's kind of tactical, is just be open minded and ask questions.
Yep.
Like, don't turn away an opportunity to talk to somebody that you don't know, or don't be afraid to find someone on LinkedIn that's doing something that you
Yep.
like and
Yep.
want to aspire to and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm graduating. I'm interested in this. Can I talk to
Mhm.
you for 30 minutes? If you get rejected, who cares? Because, I mean, sometimes people have legit reasons, but a lot of times the
Mhm.
majority of people who say no are probably people you don't want to be learning from anyways.
Right.
Like,
Right.
if they don't see the value in passing down their wealth of
Right.
information, and again, like, Elon Musk, maybe he gets asked a million times a day and maybe he can't fulfill them all. I don't know. But like, you never know someone's situation, so don't judge them, but like,
Yep.
don't think it's you as to why they said no.
Yep. And it's one person's perspective. It's not the end all be all. It's
Yeah.
one person. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just about asking questions, being humble, realizing you don't know everything. And I mean, I think that's just a good rule of life, no matter what level you're at.
Yeah. No, this is awesome advice. So I appreciate your time with us today, Jennifer. And again, for those of you, this is Root to Rising, and this is a platform created for women to hear other women's stories to help empower them to find their true happiness. So thanks again, Jennifer, for all the discussion today, and we'll talk soon. Till
Yes.
next
Thanks for
time.
having me.